that time again. I'm Ethan, welcoming you back to another amazing episode of the I and Kind podcast. Alongside me is my incredible co-host, Everett.
What's going on, man?
Not much. How about you?
Living the dream. Happy to be here.
I am very happy to be here today because we have a very special guest.
Today's podcast is sponsored by Stand for Kind. Take a stand against bullying in your school and visit www.standforkind.com.
No one is immune to the challenges of life, whether physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, or whatever. We all face difficulties, especially as teenagers. How we respond to those challenges can mold us into who we are. Despite being born with a disability in both his arms, our special guest today uses that as a remarkable strength to, as his website states, prove to the comedy world that he may be unarmed, but he's dangerous.
We're super stoked today to welcome to the show an incredibly funny man who has certainly risen above his challenges in life. Known as the Cripple Threat of Comedy, he finished third overall in season 14 of America's Got Talent. Please welcome to the podcast, Ryan Niemiller.
Hey guys, how are you? And it's Niemiller, just in case you're wondering. So yeah, I've been called worse, but
my last name is Feinschreiber, so I get all kinds of stuff and long. All weird.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we're happy to have you, man.
What got you to where you are today?
The kind of short of it, I like to say I was too stupid to quit. That's kind of what worked for me. You know, comedy is a tough business to break into, even if everything else is kind of in your favor. Having a disability in the entertainment business is not the easiest thing in the world. It's not something that, like I said on America's Got Talent, people who look like me usually don't get to be on television. So I'm already kind of working against that. And, a lot of people don't know this. Like when I did America's Got Talent, I'd already been doing comedy for about 13 years. So it wasn't something where I just kind of woke up and went, oh, this seems fun, I'll go do it. It was a lot of, sleeping in my car and doing long road trips and missing important parts of, my lives. I had missed weddings and birthdays and all that type of stuff, but it's just kind of part of the grind. So I think the biggest thing for me is just like, I knew I had something to say and something to offer. I just had to be stupid enough to keep trying until it worked out. So perseverance, I think, is a big part of it.
So would you like to phrase that instead of being too stupid to quit, you just had a dream and you chased it?
I mean, you can put it that way. I like to put my my comedic spin on it, though. It's I feel it hits a little hard. I mean, that's a bumper sticker. That's the poster with the cat hanging from the tree that says "Hang in there." I kind of like the just too stupid to quit.
Yeah, put a little bit of Ryan in there, right?
Exactly.
All right. So in your first audition before the judges on America's Got Talent, Simon Cowell asked you why you hadn't had the break that you were looking for yet. You responded that you felt part of the reason was your disability and that it was hard to break through, citing that the bookers were saying that it's not what they like. Simon responded saying that they were the ones with the disability, not you. It is such a cool response and is so true. How do you overcome the judgments people make toward you just looking at you?
It kind of goes back to what I was just saying a little bit ago. It's that perseverance. When other people are going to think of you what they think of you, and that's not my business, is sort of the way I look at it. There was people who, like I said, I would do a show, get a standing ovation, and then try to get rebooked to come back there again. And they'd be like, no, you're not really what we're looking for. And I'm like, well, those people seem to think I was what they were looking for. So I don't know what the problem is. And it's frustrating for sure. I'm not going to lie and say, it's just like, it was all cheery and positivity. It's hard being told no, especially when, you're good and it wasn't anything you did. But kind of like I was just saying, that's kind of on them though. You kind of recognize, okay, you're the ones that are wrong. So I'm just going to work even harder to prove that I belong here. And it's kind of a cool thing. Now, I'm not going to say it's spite or anything like that, but a lot of those people that were telling me no before were some of the first people, hitting up my phone, asking when I could come in and do their shows now. So, revenge can sometimes be a long game when it comes to that. You can get mad, you can get upset. I could have lashed out at them and maybe I would have been justified, but that anger kind of lives in my head. It doesn't do anything to them. So I try to put it more into a positive note. I just worked harder to make sure that I could put myself in a position where they couldn't say no anymore.
Yeah, that's incredible. Instead of taking the negative route and just lashing out on them, like you said, you kind of just let it go and you're like, I'll be where I want to be someday, and the roles will be reversed. The tables will turn and you'll want me back.
Yeah, exactly. And it's one of those things too, where it's like, I'm not gonna, like, you can get angry. Like I think that's kind of a natural human reaction. You could be like, oh no, like you guys are wrong. You can be angry, but if I yelled at them or got all negative about it, the result's still the same. They're still not booking me for that show yet. So I'd rather kind of take that energy and just put it towards something more positive and kind of make it work out in the long run.
That's a good solution. It definitely seems that, any sort of lash out at anyone, that anything like that, I guess, just like you said, turn into positive. Basically a negative anything just doesn't help anybody.
Yeah. And that's growing up with a disability, that was a huge part of it too. I had a lot of times where I wasn't happy about it, like the way I sort of put it into context, having a disability is hard and it's not always ideal. If this was a video game, this would not be how I created my character at the beginning of the game if I had my choice, but it's, it's what I had. So again, I could have been mad about it and upset about it and cry about it and be depressed about it or be mad at the world, but I still wouldn't have full arms, like just because I got sad about it doesn't mean that I wake up one morning and they're like, oh, he's pretty sad about it, we'll give him arms now. That's not how the world works. So eventually I just had to go, okay, this is what it is. I'm going to go make this happen now. I can turn this into a positive. And I think so far, at least, I've done a pretty good job of it.
I would say
I consider that an understatement. You did amazing things with it.
Yeah, I'm the third most talented person in America. So that's not too bad.
For many people, they look at their lives and say, if I didn't have this challenge, or if I only had this, then things would be better. What are your thoughts about that statement? And did you ever think that about your disability?
For a while, I'll be honest, it took me a while to get comfortable and understand that this is just how it is. I won't lie. I had a lot of times where I was kind of really down about it, and you can kind of be mad at the world. I think it's part of the process. I think it's healthy to, if you have difficulties or hardships or maybe not have it as good as other people, like you should acknowledge that. I think it can be dangerous to be completely oblivious or pretend you don't have any of those issues, because if you pretend you don't have them, then you can't heal. You can't actually get past it unless you acknowledge that it's actually a thing. And for me, that was sort of part of the growth. So I was a little sad about it, but I just mentioned a little bit ago, though, you can, when you're upset, you can be mad about it, but it's not going to change anything just being mad. Like I have a disability. That's what it is. There's not going to be a time in my life where I don't have a disability. So once you kind of realize this is just what it is, then you can start working towards making make a positive change. It became more at that point about like not what I couldn't do, but what could I do? My first dream was to be a pro wrestler and then be a Major League Baseball pitcher. Like you get to a point where it's like, yeah, it's cool to have those dreams, but for me, it just wasn't realistic. And instead of being sad about that, I was like, okay, I'm never going to pitch in the majors, but I'm funnier than everybody else I know. I'm more entertaining than everyone else I know. So I had something that I was like, okay, well, maybe this isn't ideal for what my brain thinks I want, but I still have a lot to offer and I still have a lot that I can get done. And I can do it at a very high level. It's something it's a little strange to hear sometimes, but like anytime that I'm like talking to kids or like, well, what would you tell kids, that have like dreams? It's, I'll tell people you're not going to be able to do everything. That's just the reality. It was always a weird thing when I'd be like 5, 6 years old and like parents and teachers, and they were very well meaning, but they would say things like, you could do anything you want to. And I was like, well, no, I can't. I can't wear gloves. Like I can't do that. That's something I want to do, but I can't. So I always tell people it's keep trying things until you find out what you love and what you're good at. because you're going to be bad at a lot of things. That's just the nature of humans. Even, people who are, the most talented singers in the world, some of them can't act. They can't tell a joke, but they found out what they could do really well. So that's kind of the way I look at it is, acknowledge your shortcomings and that's fine, but there's something you're going to be better at than everybody else. So keep searching for that until you find it.
This goes very kind of in line with what I tell myself every day is follow your passions. I'm very passionate about the things and the hobbies that I have, and they're what I like to do a lot. And I feel very, very thankful about, that I, can do them. I'm thankful that I have, fingers to solve a Rubik's Cube.
Exactly.
But I think you mentioned something about, you had to understand that you actually were disabled, and that you had to realize that was something different about you. But kind of imagine if you had been born and there was nobody else after you were born. And at that point, you wouldn't know you had a disability because you didn't know what a human was supposed to look like. And so I just think I always think of it that way. For example, I'm colorblind and I've been that way my whole life. And if I was born and then nobody else is around me for the rest of my life, I wouldn't know that I was colorblind. I wouldn't know that was not the norm. What I had was not the norm. And so I don't really know what it's like to be the norm because I've never really experienced it. But at least I know it's different because I live around many others who are different. And that's something that you found the positive in, which is really valuable.
Well, I appreciate it. Yeah. And for me, once I stopped being mad about it, I learned how to turn it into my advantage. It is, objectively, it is harder in a business like comedy if you have a disability. But I also look at it in the way that there's no one else in comedy that looks like me or that has what I have. So it's something that makes me stand apart. I'm not just a normal white dude, saying stuff, it's I have this unique perspective that no one else can do. And there's going to be people that react to that. And I tried to tell people for years, those bookers we were talking about earlier, I was trust me, this is different. People, it's unique. And they were like, no, it's too different. People are going to be scared of this. And then when I finally got the shot on America's Got Talent, I kind of felt a little vindicated that what I had been saying for years was true because, America's Got Talent's a big show. Millions of people watch that show every year. And I was like, well, if I can get third place on a show like that, where, 70,000 people try to get on that show, and I got third place out of that 70,000, clearly this speaks to somebody. So it was kind of, again, just not being too mad about it in the past, just using it to work harder and show everyone that there is a market and a lot of people can relate to this.
Yeah. I wish I could relate to being third in
Hey, you got time. I tried to get on that show for 5 years. So
You wish you could share championship.
Well, people know if you're on America's Got Talent, people are going to know you a lot more.
Yeah, but I mean, it was a process though. Like I said, I did comedy for 13 years before I got my shot on that show. So it wasn't handed to me, it was something you have to work for. So there's no timeline for when things are supposed to happen. You guys are young. You have plenty of time to make some things happen.
Yep. So what advice would you give to the youth of today to deal with the challenges that they currently face or will face in the future?
And I mean, that's tough. It kind of, the way that I always look at things is just keep pushing through, I said it earlier kind of jokingly, but that be too stupid to quit, because there's going to be it's not easy for anybody, even people that you think it might be easy for, from the outside, you don't know how hard they had to work to get there. Most people didn't have things just handed to them. They still had to work. And, I would say just always focus on what you're doing. Not to be too cliche and corny about it, but hard work also pays off. It's not something I had plenty of reasons, and I got told no a lot, where I had enough opportunities where I could have quit if I wanted to. You get told no enough times. It's hard not to be frustrated, hard not to go, well, maybe this isn't for me. But perseverance can pay off, and I think I'm living proof of that. I didn't. I'm almost 40 now. I'm turning into an old man, but eventually my dreams started coming true because I decided that this was important to me and this was my passion. It was something I was excited about and knew that I had something to offer. So, kind of to put a bow on it, I guess, a little bit, is just, keep going. Everything's temporary. So even times when you're struggling or it's rough, this is all temporary. It's important. Acknowledge that it's happening. But, for me, life turned around in a big way much later than I thought it was going to. So, it can, there's always that chance that what you want to happen can happen.
I really like that. That's very inspiring. And I definitely hope people remember that every time they think they need to quit.
I do as well. Unless they're trying to take my spot at a comedy club, then they can. Then they can. But other than that, you can do whatever you want.
So a couple more questions,
sure,
and then we'll get out of your hair. I shouldn't put it like that.
No, my luscious locks. You're lucky. I just got a haircut. My first haircut since June earlier this week. So you're welcome.
That's some shag.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to get really fancy for this.
So, do you have a favorite routine?
You mean from like America's Got Talent or just in general?
In general.
In general.
All time.
All time. I mean, the America's Got Talent sets were really fun. It's really hard to say because, it's going to sound kind of weird, but like my jokes are kind of like my babies a little bit, like I don't tell them if I don't love them kind of thing. Like who wants to, tell jokes that they hate, that they're like, because like when things are kind of normal and I get to work, I might be doing, 300 plus shows a year. So why would I want to tell jokes that I just do not like 300 times all across the country? So some highlights though, as far as like the AGT sets went, especially, my tornado bit is still one of my favorite things ever. Growing up in a trailer park has its own unique challenges, and it's a different world that I think unless you've done it, you don't understand how scary something like tornadoes can be when you're basically told every time there's a storm that your house might blow away. So it sort of does things to you. So that one's kind of a personal highlight, especially from the AGT run.
Okay, cool. I think I saw a video. I watched a video of you last night, and I think you did something that in your routine that was just, it made me laugh. You somehow flopped your arm back and forth and then did it over your head. Okay. And I don't know if that's iconic for you, like the Cripple Threat, but I thought it was hilarious.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've, like I was saying a little bit earlier, I wanted to be a pro wrestler at one point in my life. So I like to throw my body around in different ways. And I think you can, especially having a disability like this, it's something that, like, for me, it's really important to not like shy away from it or pretend that I don't have it. And I use my body a lot to do that. If I'm going to make a gesture and you're going to be on stage in front of millions of people, do you want to kind of go, or you want to make it big and make it like really stand out? And that's one of my favorite things to do on stage is just, throw my body around a little bit and make things, because you want to make things big. It's go big or go home when you're on stage like that.
That's awesome. I think another comedian that I can think of that I feel is similar to you in a sense. I forgot his name. I know, that's really
Yeah.
stupid. No, not Drew Lynch.
Okay.
But
I do know Drew though. Drew's a good guy. I like Drew.
He's a dwarf.
Oh, Brad Williams.
There it is.
Yeah. Brad Williams is actually one of my best friends. So yeah, Brad and I have known each other for a long time.
Absolutely love. I think one of the things I loved something he brought up on one of his performances. He brings this up a lot. Is he says, just because it's something, that I have and that it's different doesn't mean it's something I'm going to think about all the time. It's not like I walk around going, I'm midget.
Yeah. And that's the truth. It's always so strange because a lot of times people will ask me like, well, is it hard? And I'm like, well, I don't really, I guess, like, I don't know. And they'll ask like, oh, was it hard to learn to like dress yourself? And I was like, no, because humans are pretty adaptable. You figure it out, like when you're little, like, I don't know what it's like to have hands. Like this wasn't an accident. This was a birth thing, so this is just kind of how I've always been. Like, was it hard to learn to do that? And I was like, well, no, I knew that like people look at you weird if you're not wearing pants outside. So like I had to figure out pretty early, like, okay, well, I guess I'll figure out how to put on pants. Otherwise I'm going to get made fun of and people are going to give me weird looks all the time.
Yeah, it makes sense. It's just, I would be, if I were in your position, I really wouldn't even actually have an answer at all. I mean, if someone were to ask me the same thing, I'd say, I really don't know if it's hard or not. I can't compare it to what it's like to have hands.
Yeah. I don't have that perspective. Like it's hard to explain for some people, but like if I woke up tomorrow and I had hands, I would be a mess. I'd be knocking things over all the time. Like I wouldn't know it. Like, how do you guys carry that around? It's too many fingers doing things. It seems really, really distracting, quite frankly.
Yeah, it can be.
Which is why you solve Rubik's Cubes with yours.
I know. I use my fingers for everything, and sometimes it's so much. I sometimes forget the value of my fingers because I use them for so many of my hobbies, like magic and solving Rubik's Cubes and stuff like that. And so if I break one of my fingers or like I really injure it and I'm like, oh, it's just a finger. If it comes off, it comes off, it's not a large appendage part of you. That's not.
I mean, let's not get carried away. All right. Like you'll be fine if you lose a couple, but don't go out of your way to lose a couple is what I'm saying.
No,
it's like, don't take them for granted. All right. Like,
don't take them for
you'll
granted.
be fine if you lose one, but please keep it, man. Don't. I have enough competition already.
What could you possibly donate them to?
Anyway, we'd like to thank the incredibly talented and hilarious Ryan Niemiller. Go check out his past appearances on America's Got Talent on YouTube and visit his website, www.cripplethreat.com, for details of upcoming shows.
Remember, if we face challenges in our lives by responding with positivity and hope those challenges that would otherwise bury us have the potential to bless us, we can shake it off and step it up.
Another great show today. Thank you so much to my co-host Everett, and a huge thanks for everyone listening to this episode of the I Am Kind podcast. And remember, you matter. See ya.